A very, very warm welcome to you all to today's special ACBC Fireside Chat, a partnership event with the sponsorship of the City of Melbourne. I'm Virginia Birrell, the National Executive Officer of the Australia-China Business Council, and I have the dual role of CEO of the Victorian branch. I'll begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, from all the localities around Australia where our guests are joining us, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'm delighted we've attracted not just a nationwide audience today, but guests from Korea, several cities in China, Singapore and even Belfast. So you are all most welcome and thank you for joining us. Today's inaugural session of the 996 show, Stories from Data Pioneers in China, will draw on insights from China in the world of tech, data and innovation. Our aim is to connect working professionals, share knowledge and build a community around this important sector. We hope this will be the first of many sessions, so keep an eye on your inbox for more information. China is emerging as a global leader in the technology industry, a key driver of its economic growth with considerable government and private sector support and an incredible uptake among the population. With the rapid pace of technological and scientific innovation, along with the ever-changing governance over data collection and the cyber realm, China's digital ecosystem is increasingly competitive and complex. To help us understand and engage with this ecosystem, I am delighted today to welcome our host, Chris Kong, to lead the discussion with Jiannan Ke. A long-time friend of ACBC, Chris is a pioneer in the data transformation and consumer behaviour areas with 18 years of in-market experience in Australia, China and Singapore. As Director of Data and Digital Transformation at Danone in China, he leveraged data analytics and technology to drive growth and efficiency, skills he learned while holding previous leadership positions in data analytics at Nielsen and consumer goods at Cadbury. I'm really excited to host this event today. There's little doubt that the rate of change and advancement coming out of China in tech and innovation is a spectacle to behold. There are ample areas to learn and collaborate in increasingly critical areas to serve common purposes and advance mutually beneficial areas. I know this is a sentiment shared by the City of Melbourne. So to officially open this session, I'm absolutely delighted to introduce a recorded message from our Lord Mayor of Melbourne, Sally Capp. Sally has been a great supporter of the work of ACBC since becoming Lord Mayor in May 2018, and we highly value our working partnership with the City of Melbourne, who've kindly sponsored this event. We thank Terry Wu for organising this message and also for backing up our sponsorship application. So with no further ado, I will ask Zach to play Sally's recorded message. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Sally Capp, the Lord Mayor of Melbourne. On behalf of the City of Melbourne, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and pay our respects to their elders past and present. I'm honoured to be part of today's inaugural event for the Stories from Data Pioneers in China series. We are proud to support events like this that facilitate relationships, networks and the exchange of ideas locally and globally as we scale up our city's innovation capability. The City of Melbourne enjoys long-term strategic relationships with China through our city-to-city connections, and digital innovation is one of the many shared objectives and areas for collaboration with our Chinese partner cities such as Tianjin, Nanjing and Suzhou. While COVID-19 has altered the rhythm of our city, it has provided an opportunity to reimagine the ways that we work and live, sowing the seeds for creative ideas and new ventures. Building back after the pandemic will rely on Melbourne having a strong knowledge and innovation sector. We are ranked 36 in the top global startup ecosystems with world-leading capabilities in life sciences and fintech. And our maturing startup scene is home to more than 2,100 startups, 500 investors and 50 accelerators. In our mind, there is no question. Investing in technology and innovation and partnering with industry will be a cornerstone for the future-proofing and prosperity of our economy. The City of Melbourne's economic development strategy sets out this vision to be a global leader in creating jobs and enterprises that focus on the needs of the future. And as we build towards a globally competitive innovation ecosystem, we look at our neighbours in Asia for inspiration. The pandemic has accelerated technology transformation in Asia, with almost 50% of R&D spend and 36% of all unicorns located in Asia. The rapid digital and data transformation of 4 cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen and Hangzhou, are ranked amongst the top 30 in innovation ecosystems. For these reasons and more, I look forward to hearing many of the successful stories from China, that international benchmarking and best practice. To the Australian China Business Council, to Virginia, thank you for your partnership, for your fabulous work in facilitating business and trade exchanges between Melbourne and China, and best wishes for this forum. Thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. Thanks, Sally. She's a terrific supporter. Now, I'm pleased to invite Chris Kong to the virtual stage to introduce our guest and host today's discussion. I'm sure the discussions will generate some questions from you, our audience. So please feel free to put anything you would like to ask in the chat box, which Chris will moderate after he poses some questions of his own to the group. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you, Sally, and a massive warm welcome to everyone today. It is my thrill and honor to be launching the 996 show today, Stories from Data Pioneers in China. So why are we launching this thing? Well, as I reflect back, so I was born and grew up in Australia, first 20 odd years of my life in Australia, and in the past 15 years based in China. I still remember 15 years ago when I moved to China, everyone said, hey, Chris, I was working on data and everyone was saying, Chris, we don't have enough data here. We don't have data points, and the data points we do have are not accurate. We can't use them. And now, fast forward a small number of years, there's more data than anywhere else on the planet. And I've sort of seen firsthand the potential that we have to leverage data, connect data, and make it useful. So it's in that context that we're launching the 996 show. So through this show, we are aiming to invite people who are working at the coalface on data and tech in China. So we're not looking for commentators who are looking at things from afar, but we're actually looking for industry practitioners working on these things and sharing their personal perspectives. So I'm hoping that this will be something that's very relevant and interesting to all of you who are joining today. The other thing I want to highlight is that we want this experience of the show to be interactive. And so with that in mind, we're looking to do 2 things. One is we'll be starting a poll. So we're going to poll the audience, ask a few questions, and then I will delve into some of the answers together with Jiannan. And the other is we will dedicate some time at the end for Q&A. So along the way, any questions that you have, please pop them in the chat box. I'll try to work out in an agile way how to use the system, and I'm sure we'll get to your questions. Okay, so before I introduce Jiannan, I might ask Zach if it's possible to perhaps start the poll. Okay, so over the next minute or so, you're going to be asked 3 questions in a row. So we're only going to put this up for 10 or 20 seconds per question. So get in there early. So yeah, perhaps 20 seconds per question. Multiple choice. It's not a test. There's no right or actually there's potentially a right or wrong answer, but you're not going to be held accountable. Okay, so feel free to pop in your responses there. It will really help the interactivity in the show. Thank you. So as you do that over the next couple of minutes and fill in the poll, 3 questions, Jiannan, I might ask if you don't mind to perhaps introduce the journey that you've been on. It's such an amazing journey, Jiannan.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Chris. Excuse me, that excitement just got me stuck here. Right, a really quick self-introduction, really. Likewise to Chris, I am passionate about data transformation and how really data comes to work. And from my background, I've been working with Nielsen, with Accenture, with Bytedance, and also various other multinational companies but with a different focus. While Chris is focusing on the consumer side of data, I'm more focused on the internal kind of side of data where we actually actualize the benefit of that through our internal employees, and how do we best deal with our data, how to utilize that to optimize employee experience, and how to really find, hire, and grow people within the company. So that's a bit about me.
Fantastic. We've known each other, Jiannan, for about 10 years now. Happy anniversary. I still recall the day we met very clearly. So, I mean, if I can just build on that, I think, so Jiannan has such an interesting journey, I think, from my perspective, particularly because he's seen different angles of the digital transformation journey. Yeah. So beginning from a more data side, having worked in Nielsen and in consulting at Accenture, before then working in a more traditional companies, such as consumer goods in Henkel, oil and gas with BP, and then more recently in Bytedance. So actually it'd be really interesting to zoom in on your experiences in Bytedance. So perhaps you could share a bit more about what you've been doing at Bytedance, Jiannan.
Okay, right. Quite recently, I was at Bytedance to actually to help promote and actually commercialize our product as its name as Lark. What we do is that we have built this communication platform likewise to WhatsApp, but used internally within the company to help really communicate. But the gist of it is actually to also sell to other companies. And the way that we sell is to actually promote OKR and to actually tell other companies how you should govern, how you should manage your objectives through the company, and use that concept on this platform in order to best achieve your objectives.
Oh, that's super interesting. I saw in the recent reorganization of Bytedance, which I think was last week or the week before, that there were 6 business units, and then Lark was one of these 6 business units that will be the organization of the way forward. So obviously, this sort of enterprise approach is going to be a key pillar of the Bytedance organization.
Yeah, besides TikTok, of which everyone knows so much about. So because Lark has already been quite successful in growing its market within the China market, as Bytedance is one of the biggest unicorns within this nation. Actually, many small companies are already looking up to how it's managing itself, how it really governs its objectives, how it achieves its goals to its size, right? And really utilizing OKR. In fact, when we try to commercialize this product or this concept to our local clients, many of them were like, we just want to know what you did, how you did it, and we want to copy that, right? Which we are very, very good at. So that's one of the top selling points when we commercialize the product, and it has been very successful.
Super interesting. Hold that point. I want to deep dive on that shortly. But before we do, we might actually jump into the first poll question. So thank you for those of you. It's the majority of you who have filled out the poll. So congratulations on getting involved. And for those that didn't, shame on you. But let's jump into it. Poll question number 1. Can everyone see the results there? Okay, so Bytedance is not a listed company yet. Rife speculation in industry that they'll IPO soon. Let's see what happens there. But different valuations put the value of Bytedance, this currently private company, at between 200 and 400 billion US dollars. Different valuations from this year. As a reference, as of this morning, BHP is worth about 140 billion US dollars. So in that, BHP was founded quite a long time ago, in 1851. When was Bytedance founded? So we've got no takers for 1922. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be that old. We've got 32% of people saying 2002, so 19 years ago. And we've got 68% saying 2012, 9 years ago. So what's the answer there, Jiannan?
It's definitely 2012. It's great to see everyone well, 68% got it right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty amazing, mind-boggling, right? A company started less than 10 years ago can create something that the market is valuing at 200 to 400 billion US dollars. So from your work on the inside in Bytedance, Jiannan, what is the secret sauce here? How has Bytedance been able to, in such a short time, create such a valuable offer?
Wow. Okay. When you talk about secret sauce, it's going to be, go back to how we really grew so fast, right? When we talk about growing so fast and how we adapted through the time, I by no means is trying to sell to anyone about any of those products, but really at less than 10 years, grow to a company its size, it's actually, encompassing so much about explosive growth, right? It's also because of when we adapt to the consumer needs, when we adapt to the employee needs in terms of their management kind of habits, in terms of their ability to, their best choices. There are vast number of data points that
Jiannan, you might have gone.
that,
oh, okay.
Right. So
you're back now.
In a nutshell, sorry, I vented on and on. It's about how we stay agile and how we really revamped our products, revamped our systems, revamped about the way we manage almost every half a year or.
Great.
Not sure if it makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. What you're saying makes a lot of sense. The line was cutting out a bit, which happens from time to time. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned agile there. So agile, so a methodology that many tech companies, internet platforms are using. Perhaps you could share with us a bit about how agile is used within Bytedance.
When about agility that's used within Bytedance, well, it's definitely a digital native company. As we all know, the industry within itself is agile, right? It's the agility itself that's representative. A quick example of that is that every 2 weeks we will sit together and really talk about what has our how has our objective changed, and what kind of the new stuff are there, what are the new threats, what are the new strategy, and everyone within the company will get aligned at that frequency, right? That power is surmountable. It's just because everyone will move at the same pace at every 2 weeks, right? When that happens, the company can stay market friendly, basically, right? Whatever is happening at the top, the bottom knows. I think that's the way.
Interesting. And I think that's a good transition into OKRs, and a good transition into our next poll question, which related to OKRs. So just as a refresh, so the question was, how familiar are you with OKRs? We've got 58% of the audience stating never heard of the term before. 37%, I know that OKRs stand for objectives, key results, but have never used it before. And we've got 5% mentioning, I've used OKRs and you could call me an expert. Fantastic. Perhaps in the chat box, whoever the expert is can also maybe make yourself known, and we'd love to maybe involve you in the conversation as well. So Jiannan, for the 58% who have never heard of the term before, what are OKRs?
Well, in a really short nutshell, OKR is just a way to manage that's derived from management by objectives from basically Peter Drucker, and OKR has been first adapted by Intel and very recently, being adapted by the Chinese net companies, basically. And it's the way that we manage objectives, the way that we govern objectives throughout the company. Hot topic, honestly speaking.
Fantastic. And perhaps you could share about the maybe part of the work that you were involved in. So I understand that you're working on a solution that helped companies on OKRs. Perhaps you could share with us about the journey of how this was created, this solution.
Absolutely. So OKR definitely is likewise to KPI that how we manage where we want to go through the company, right? And this is a solution that the company offered. It's just simply because it's best optimized through the support of the system, right? When we say the support of the system, it's about how can we see it online? How can we really use it very easily? Right, so Bytedance has started using OKR at a very early stage of its birth, and then very soon it realized that okay, the current system or the current offerings that other companies has provided is not able to keep up with how they want to use it, and that is just because within the company there are just sheer amount of employees. Right now it has I think over 140K employees within the company. And that needs a very useful system, right, to optimize this process. Because 1 second you save with that system, it's 1 second times 140K. And that's why the company is really willing to invest in its product. And then once it's commercialized, then it's optimizing for all its clients as well. Okay. So that's how it rolls on and continuously invested in the product to optimize its experience, to see how can OKR be presented at a fast speed and how can it be tracked very easily throughout the process.
Fascinating. So can I understand it this way, Jiannan, that the system to support this OKR, this objectives, key results, KPI framework, this system was created initially internally within Bytedance to connect the 140,000 employees to know, what's everyone doing. And then later on, given that it worked within Bytedance, it was then commercialized for sale to other companies that might find this useful. Is that how it worked?
Yes, it is how it worked. It is about. It's actually commercialization was a challenge for the product owner itself. Internally, we had a rumor that says, if you think your product is successful, then you can prove it through commercialization. You can prove it with the market. And that's the native of the reason why we want to commercialize it. We want to keep improving the internal system so that it can actually prove out to be useful outside.
Oh, so interesting. So I find that, the market talks and is a good gauge on how good the product is. Well, that's an interesting learning. So if I could zoom in maybe just on the internal aspects of this. So 140,000 people with a system that connects everyone. So in the Bytedance day-to-day operations, can everyone access the OKRs of everyone else?
Absolutely.
If I was an employee, could I see the Bytedance CEO's OKRs, what his objectives and measurables are?
Well, yes, and yes, partially.
Okay.
Of course, there are classified information attached to it, but the nature of it is to be transparent, is to be able to have everyone within a company adjust your own objective as according to your environment, your leader, and of course, your CEO. And that actually brings meaning to your work, right? Unlike KPIs where you focus on improving one niche, of which, has been established for you at a very previous state. You can navigate yourself through the challenges and through all those difficulties, knowing that your end objective is the same with the whole company, and you will be rewarded that way as well. So interesting way.
Hugely relevant, hugely relevant. You know, definitely for such a massive organization to ensure that people are moving in the one direction, but I can imagine also for smaller companies. And speaking of that, you know, shifting gears to the commercialization aspect, I'd love to hear more about the interaction with potential customers of the product. So you've developed this OKR system, you know, got a version 1 working within Bytedance. You look to the market for to work out that you know, how good is this product. If the market bites, then there's something good about it. If there are some gaps, you could feed that into the product development. I'd love to hear more about the commercialization part and the interaction with customers. So were these customers mainly, you mentioned local clients before, were they mainly Chinese companies? I'd love to hear more about your interaction with the customers and what you learned about them. Yeah.
To be honest, right now, most of the clients are really local companies, because that's how Bytedance is known, right? And the local companies actually look up for you know, its status within the, within the nation. But gradually, foreign MNCs has been, you know, talking to us as well, just because you know, it's like a snowball rolling, right? That, you know, Bytedance or its speed or its agility has been known, and then eventually what that means to MNCs is that, you know, we want to go faster, everyone wants to go faster. If the market is going faster, then if I don't go that way, maybe can I survive? So that's the question there, and really many times the local companies, when I, you know, talk to them, when I really interact with them, the question, because it's the CEO level decision, right? So you want to know how you govern your objective, you want to know how you govern your people, basically. The CEO will ask us, right? So what's your objective, right? How did you make sure everyone gets aligned? What kind of challenges are there? What kind of pushbacks are there? It's always, you know, these are the questions that we encounter every single time when there's a change. When you try to drive a change, you know, you evaluate the risk, you evaluate the return, right? And many a times it's actually quite interesting to know that the CEO is most concerned about is that they want to know what their first line, their frontline employees are doing. They want to know whether they are contributing, they really understood what they tried to do, right? So whether the frontline people knows what the CEOs are trying to contribute to. So that's the top one concern, and that's the top one concern, top one selling reason as well. Top two, I would say, because previously I talked about looking up to the company, right? And really, they will be able to see through the system, our frontline every other 2 weeks, knowing that, oh, okay, so you really understood my objective. You're working on it. That's actually really exciting. That's really energetic as well, because you know everyone within the organization is working to one direction.
Wow. I can imagine in a company that, a big company, having understanding what the frontline people are doing, whether it's in line with the strategy, would be hugely critical. And what about intelligence gathering? I mean, I've always thought that in many companies, people at the front line, at the coalface, dealing with customers on the ground, would often have the most valuable intelligence of what their customers are needing, what competitors are doing that are hugely, a big threat for our company. As part of this process, I mean, as part of the system, is there a way of also collecting intelligence from the front line, in addition to cascading top down from senior management to the front line, ensuring they are doing things, on strategy? Is there also the other feedback loop to understand things from the front line and communicate them further up the chain?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for bringing this up. I would say twofold. The number one is definitely the people that we were talking about. How the information loops back to the head, right? How we really touch and feel off the front line, and then how it feeds back to the brain, and then how can we react really fast to it. And the other way, the other fold is that I found it really amazing is the data that's fed back through the system. When I say data through the system, I really mean the system, the hard and software that we are looking at about when we talk about A/B testing, when we talk about TikTok, when we talk about Lark, how it tracks everyone's single move, how your visual, how your interactions with that system is being tracked, is being analyzed. When that system collects millions touch points or billions touch points, you know, it actually generates a story. It tells you what customers like, what the frontline likes, what our B2B customers like, right? What are their preferences? What are their challenges? Sometimes even before they themselves know it, right? Because data tells a hidden story when our everyday habit may not tell us, right? That's the magic of AI and machine learning.
Fantastic. You're opening up lots of different directions we can bring this conversation now. So I might just pause to remind everyone that shortly we're going to be opening up for Q&A. Really welcome your questions that are coming to your mind and welcome you to submit that in the chat box. So just rounding out this topic on OKRs, Jiannan, you introduced this topic as something that originated in the West, so through the Peter Drucker School of Management. So what would be your assessment, having worked on this in a very hands-on way in creating a solution? So OKRs originating in the West, something that Bytedance has tried to leverage as part of its internal operations. So from your point of view, has that worked well? Has that created lots of value? Have there been any challenges in adopting this Western sort of framework into China? What are your thoughts on this?
You know, when this question comes about, the first parallel that I thought about was KPI, where it also, you know, originated from the West, of which you know became excellent within Japan, right? Where it's driven through so many companies, because people are just used to look up to the successful goals and successful cases and learn from the scenarios that they'll get. But the magical thing happens when you adapt. I think adaptation is not about living, it's about excelling, right? So when I mentioned this, is that when we look back at OKR or you know KPI or any phenomenon, just say keywords, right? It's actually a direction of which you can think about. It has some traits of elements to it, of which it chants, right? Say for example, OKR would talk about more on the key results, right? And also how we make sure objective gets disintegrated, and also, you know, KPI about focusing on a particular direction. But when it comes to a particular company, when it comes to ourselves, right, we adapt, and then we think about how this concept can work best for us, and then we base on that concept, we optimize the tools, we optimize the way we think about, and then very soon you realize that the concept is just a concept, and then you have lived a new way, a new form that actually, you know, can help you excel. And then, but of course, you will still go back and thank the concept and thank it for being there. Likewise, you know, OKR, the most successful company I would say is Google, right? that's been using it, and Intel has started with it, and all that. And then when we use it in Bytedance, and even, you know, very traditional companies, say for example, Sunny, one of the local hardware manufacturers, they're like Caterpillar, right? But they were very strong KPI based, and they adapted OKR just to enhance its management, and then they use it the way they believe it's right, and then it's all everyone's different.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Makes a lot of sense. perhaps now we might shift to the next poll question. So it's the third and final poll question that we posed at the beginning. Who's excited to see the results?
Drum roll.
I am.
Boom, 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 boom.
Thank you for the drum roll, Jiannan. So here we go. Do you believe that China speed can be applied in the West? Oh, a mix of response, juicy. So 26% of people, yes, it's possible to take learnings from China. 53%, yes, but only partially. And 21%, no, the situations are too different. Interesting. So we've got a divergence of opinions here. I'd love to hear your take on it, Jiannan. So perhaps we start with this term China speed. We used to work together, Jiannan. We used to work in the same company, 10 years ago. And I recall at that time, working in a multinational company, we had interactions with other countries. And then it became very clear that China was operating at a different speed, right? The ability to get things done much quicker became very obvious. So I'd like to maybe begin by asking you a question. What comes to your mind when you think about China's speed?
The first thing really came to mind is the sheer number of people and the sheer number of challenges that we have to face. And because when we think about challenges, or we think about phenomena, we think about the origin, the reason why, the reason behind stuff, right? So why is there a term called China speed? I always tend to think it's about the local competition that's intense. It's about whether you go fast or you don't exist at all, right? The fast fish will eat the big fish, right? That's what we believe in, and that's what we have been seeing throughout. And when we talk about a sheer number, previously we discussed about the people, about how we, within this nation, there are just so many data points to be collected, and also, really the people. I'm sorry. I think can you still hear me?
We can hear you. Yes,
okay.
Loud and clear.
So all this actually gets feed up through the China speed concept, and right now, we're going faster than ever. I hear that previously, if I'm not wrong, Japan has been going through Japan speed as well, right? Maybe 2 decades ago, and I do foresee that maybe one day we'll slow down, but not now.
Japan speed, I've never heard this term. So what is Japan speed? Is that slow? Is that fast? Or is that something in between?
I will understand it as fast, but that's beyond, that's before our time, right? But that's something that I've also really learned quite recently. It's not a term, I would say, but really what happened through China about the competition that has the spur of everything recently, has been seen in Japan before. Yeah.
Right. I'd love to hear your take on any examples of China speed. So just to share an example from my side, so that a lot of the work that I've been doing relates to the consumer goods sector. Yeah. So in markets outside of China, it's very common for an innovation product, so a new product, to take 2 years to get to market. So you come up with the idea, you do a bit of feasibility testing, you create a prototype, you put this into market research, you prepare a launch plan, and then you launch that. So end to end, 2 years. At a stretch, 18 months. And then, so that compared to a situation in China, talking to like an e-commerce platform, pitching an idea, and then asking you, okay, so can we launch that next week? So we're dealing with 2 different realms here, right? So 2 years versus 2 weeks. So what examples come to your mind of extreme China speed?
Wow. Okay. Well, I would say I would really say take the LARC example, adaptation of LARC. because we are looking at a change of management style in a company, and people need to adapt to it. And when we say a change in management style, it encompasses a change in behavior, a change in what you believe in, and the change that we will act on an everyday basis, right? And honestly speaking, when I hear the average adaptation of a company, I was astonished, right? Because I also work with a client success group previously. And really the average adaptation from its first learning to its official kickoff, and really, people are using it on a regular basis, only takes around 2 months. We are looking at how the entire company operates. We are looking at how each and every one access every single day on the platform, and actually utilizing to what we believe is, an effective way of operation.
Wow, so 2 months to create a new behavior change among employees.
Or a culture, I would say, because that's the how the whole company shapes. So, for example, previously when the company, the CEO focuses on achieving a particular number where everyone wants to rush forward to it, and then evolving into something that I kind of vision, and then everyone discuss and then actually formulate your own way to actually adjust to that particular direction.
That is a wonderful example of China speed, of not only implementing a new tool, but actually changing people's behavior and changing an organization's culture, and then cramming that into a really short amount of time. That's a great example, Jiannan. And we've got a great question that's come through the chat as well on what is Australia's speed and how can we make it faster? Interesting. So maybe I might just put that one out there. You may not be that familiar with the Australia landscape, so I'm not going to pose that to you, Jiannan. But perhaps what I will do.
I was kind of keen because
okay.
I'm sorry. My first question that came to mind from that question was that why do we need to go faster? Do we really need to, right? Because Australia's speed, or if there's a term, right, it's right now at a pace. So is this pace not comfortable for us, or is the environment calling for us to go faster? Do we need more resources, or is there basically what's the reason behind? What do you think?
The need to go faster. I think, I've got quite extreme views on this, because I think a lot of the time, the success of an economy, I find, for some reason, is linked to growth, is linked to GDP growth, whereas the happiness of a society actually may not be linked to that. So I think I'm going down a bit of a different track here. So perhaps I won't sort of deviate too much on that. But I think it's a wonderful question that you're posing in terms of, is there a need, what is the driver of needing to go faster? And perhaps that's a good link to the title of this show, the 996 show. So, 996 working culture, working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. So has this been a critical part of enabling China speed up until now? And then, there's been lots of talk in recent months about whether this is sustainable and what will happen in the future. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, Jiannan. Up until now, where the big platforms in China have achieved results, as you were mentioning, creating behavioral change, cultural change within an organization in 2 months, to what extent is 996 hardworking culture, the cause for that? Or is that just one of many factors?
I would say it's a result of that. I would say it's a result of that because if you do remember, as you mentioned before, we used to both work in Nielsen, and our CEO back then mentioned there's this +1 concept, +1 concept, of which when we want to achieve something, we do it just a bit more, right? And then everything changes. And really, within the competition that we face every single day, within this China speed kind of situation, people are thinking, how can I go faster, right? And then that +1 has evolved, I would say, right, within China to become the internet companies, of which is adapting to the extra 1 day. Really was the effects, or the marginal difference of it all. It could be justified, but it could be challenged as well, because does your working hours really represent the output of yourself, right? How many days of a week do you need a rest, right, to be most effective? It's all different challenges, right? So it's really hard to justify. But I would say it's a result of China speed. It's a result of people wanting to go faster. That's how it's situated. How it morphed into that +1 day. I saw a question on the audience that what might slow China down, and also Chris, you did mention a bit before how it's been driven by the internet companies on the +1 day. To be honest, I would say the government has already been trying to slow this down. Because I'm not exactly a political expert, of which I do look forward to hearing from more of your show and different people's perspective to it. But what recently has been cascading in terms of policies, in terms of promotions, is that different companies will have to adapt on 5 days a week kind of policy, and 6 days are really frowned upon, and overtimes should be paid better, and all those stuff are actually rolling about, and companies within China are really sensitive to the government directions. We will adapt no matter what, or there might be hidden stuff right behind it all, but really it's very influential. And when that's on a track, right, when the successful companies adapt, any other small companies will actually follow suit. And so I do look forward to a different lifestyle there.
Great. So with that, we might actually open up a bit more on the Q&A. So encourage you in the audience to pose your questions first in the chat box. And Rachel, I think Jiannan was referring to your question. Perhaps if you would like, you could maybe turn your video on and unmute yourself, and perhaps we can invite any additional comment or question that you may have, Rachel.
Hi, no, I think that's addressed it really, but if you've got any other thoughts about, what might change the culture in China and change the approach to work, I think it's really interesting. It helps shed light on what's happening in Australia as well.
I'll just talk a bit more about what I believe is the reason why that we might be slowing down, or we might be adjusting a different direction of growth. That's a better way that I would like to understand it, because previously we have been trying to grow tall, right? We want to be excelling in a particular direction, because that you outcompete others, right, within a forest. And very soon you realize that tall will only get you, you attract more wind, right? You actually need to beef up your extension. You need to get go wider. And when you go wide, you'll get stronger, right? And I think the way to understand is that China market, the current direction that we try to drive to is that we want to make sure our infrastructure, our hardcore land infrastructure on the basic 5.0 internet speed, and also about the machine learning, about AI, will keep up, or the development of the silicon, right, will keep up with the speed of the internet companies. We don't want everyone to grow tall and then the whole forest of tall but weak trees. We want to make sure that everyone is growing sideways as well. I think that's, maybe not as a very figurative description, but that's the way I think about it. for now.
Wonderful description, Jiannan. You're really showing the poetic element, the poetic side of you come to the fore. It's really wonderful. Yes, a great metaphor. Megan, we would love to, you've written a question there. If you are able to turn your video on and unmute yourself, which you have done, we would love to hear more about what's on your mind.
Thanks. No, it was just actually in reference to what you were talking about before, the difference between Australia and China speed and what Jiannan said as well. And I was just wondering, you know, with COVID, we've seen around the world, you know, the disparity between different income groups and different, you know, people that have to work on the front line versus those that are in the knowledge economy. And it's really become quite clear. And I guess in Australia, there's a lot of talk around, you know, looking at inclusive growth as part of the recovery. So it's not just economic growth, but making sure everyone can be brought along on the journey. And I just wondered if that was something that was being discussed in China as well. And that idea, I guess, of China speed and bringing people along the journey tends to take a bit longer, I guess. So I guess my question is, yeah, does it resonate in China? Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, so could you hear that, Jiannan?
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of perspectives on the future? I mean, I think it also relates to the future of growth as well. So, I mean, do you have any perspectives that you want to build on that? Do you have a specific question in mind there, Megan?
I guess it was more in terms of with that, and I maybe haven't phrased it very well, but with China and the speed that it goes at, it seems to be, you know, obviously like there's this momentum and a directive, and that obviously, you know, at that tech level, it's quite fast. But if you're wanting to look at bringing everyone along the journey, which I guess is more slows things down, is there a sense of looking at it in an inclusive way of doing that rather than just I guess steaming ahead to it's more a comment.
I hear an interesting word of description about inclusiveness. To be honest, many times I always think about also you know, whether, you know, when we go, there's a term, right? When we go fast, we go alone. And, really, many of the companies does not really chant inclusiveness or the economy as well. I think different industries and different environments are growing at different speeds right now. But definitely, when we talk about if you go faster, you will outperform others. You will be able to shine out. But of course, different industries or the way that we operate, different people, right? From every single level, organization, people, and companies, they have different preferences. They have different challenges. You know, they can go at different speeds. If we're talking about pharmaceutical company, how we adapt to COVID, right? How we develop our cure, vaccinations, we try to go fast, but there's just limited stuff that we can do. Whereas we are looking at internet companies, with a snap of a finger, you can just switch on and off. You can do A/B testing. There's so many ways that we can do this, and then because of its diverse nature, there is definitely individualization. And when tech companies in China try to grow up, I hate to say this, but we tend to use, as an example from the HR aspect, we tend to use probation as a way to find the people that can go fast, can go with the organization. If it can pass it, there are many people who can't, right? There are many organizations that cannot keep up with the speed. I'm not saying that it's a sad thing, but it's just a fact, right? And that being said, there are definitely returns of being fast, as our first poll actually stated, right? How fast Bytedance actually grew through its stages, and the return is phenomenal, right? So do we want to go fast and we may be able to lose some people, or do we want to be going steady? And we may actually perish if our competition is going fast. So back to the question at the very first stage that we talked about, do we want to, what's our challenge here, right, on the environment? What's the benefit of it, right? And then how do we weigh, can we go fast at controlled speed, controlled risks? I think that's always a way to challenge ourselves on the meaning behind, instead of, we need to adapt, just saying because we have to.
Yeah, great. So perhaps before I hand back to Virginia, I think what would be great to do would be to pop on the screen a QR code. I think this kind of brings us almost to the end of a really jam-packed hour of amazing insights and nuggets. I think the final comment around inclusivity is a really wonderful way to end the discussion, because I think Jiannan was referring to going alone versus going in a group. And I think the metaphor that comes to my mind is one person taking 100 steps themselves, or 100 people taking one step forward together. And I think it links a lot back to what Jiannan was describing in terms of some of the tools and systems that he's been working on to enable these 100 people to take one step together. And in the spirit of inclusiveness, we would love to welcome you to join the Data Pioneer community. It will be a way to continue the wonderful conversation and discussion that's been taking place today, ongoing. The QR code will link to a WeChat group. So if you found today's discussion somewhat interesting and relevant, we would welcome you to join the group and to share about what you would like to see and hear in the future. I would like to actually, from my perspective, say a really big thanks to Jiannan. Thank you for joining us today, bright and early in your time. I continue to learn so much from you, so really appreciate that. Do you have any final words that you would like to share from your perspective, Jiannan?
Well, I'll just say, I love every single conversation because it triggered me thinking, and through this preparation or through our conversations, to best really understand the current situation and the need for what we try to achieve in this session of 996 conversations. It's actually inspirational for me, right? So I love every single conversation. I think the interaction between us and between our audience is just valuable, right? So I look forward to more discussions and more challenges so that we can think beyond our current understanding, our current scope of the world, basically.
Fantastic. So it's my thrill that we've launched the 996 show today, stories from data pioneers in China. Big thanks to the Australia-China Business Council, for Virginia for her support, and for Zach in partnering together on this, as well as to the City of Melbourne, and a big call out to Terry. So thank you all. And with that, I'll hand back to you, Virginia.
Thank you so much. This has been a really stimulating discussion, Jiannan. We really appreciate all your input, and Chris, for your inspiration in pushing this forward through our Future Leaders group. It's been really wonderful. I hope all our guests online have enjoyed today's discussion. I certainly have, and have learned a lot, and look forward to continuing this on. I think it's a very, very important platform. So I'm seeing a few thumbs up there, so look forward to catching up with you all again soon. Also, I do again thank our event partners, the City of Melbourne. We can't do these things on our own. And Terry, please pass our thanks back on to Sally Capp, our Lord Mayor, and your team for your ongoing support. The recording of today's session will be sent to the attendees. So if you've missed anything, you'll pick up a few points. And we also do a brief executive summary as well. And also the details again on joining the group to stay in touch with the speakers and each other. And also we'd appreciate your input on future topics too. Please feel free to be interactive and communicate with us. In the meantime, we'd love to see you at our upcoming national briefing with the Australian Embassy in Beijing. That's a Zoom meeting on the 7th of December, and the booking details will come out to you from Zach with the event write-up. If you're not a member of ACBC, why are you not? Please join us. We need you. You can really make the most of what we have to offer by becoming a member and help support our work, just jump on our website, acbc.com.au to register. You can do that online easily. And we look forward to seeing you either in person very soon or online. And in the meantime, stay safe and well. Thank you again. Bye.